Welcome everyone to the 2021 New Orleans Poetry Festival. I'm Bill Lavender from the New Orleans Poetry Festival Board. Before we get started, we want to thank our major sponsors this year, especially New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation and the Academy of American Poets, who have helped us keep this year's fest free and open to all. We're glad to have you with us at this event, and we hope to see you at the many others still to come in April. There's something every day. It's usually about this time, sometimes earlier on weekends. Come check us out. There are lots of cool events. All you have to do to attend an event is just go to nolapoetry.com and click on it. No registration or anything like that required. So tonight we have Hank Lazer and Holland Hopson. They're going to be performing some of Hank's shaped poems with Hank on the poems and Holland on banjo. That's all you're going to play, right? No guitar or anything. So I'm just going to turn it over to them, and I'm going to let them introduce and tell you what they're doing. And so Hank and Holland.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
A real pleasure to be here. This is just the beginning of something too. Holland and I are together in a room, and that means we've both been vaccinated as of about a month ago. And it's an odd and new experience all over again. So I'm looking forward to more and more of this being the case. So it makes me feel like this New Orleans Poetry Festival is occurring in a transitional time. And a year from now, we hope it'll be an in-person situation. And this is a real pleasure. I've greatly enjoyed prior New Orleans Poetry Festival gatherings, thanks to energy of Megan, Bill, and everyone else on the board making this possible. We're going to dispense with bio stuff. You can go to the really fine website that's there that has all of that information if you wish to take a look at that. Very nicely set up. What Holland and I are going to be doing, it's really coming out of a good couple of years of exploration of what's possible in terms of the interaction of music and poetry. And Holland plays a range of different instruments. We're going to be working with banjo. You have fretless banjo today too. So 2 different kinds of banjos. That's mainly the field that we've been kind of exploring, but we'll also give you a taste of a little bit more of the breadth of the collaboration. There'll be some canned material that we'll present to you. We've just recently done some recording sessions for my next book, which will be field recordings of Mind in Mourning, that Jeffrey Gatza will be publishing with BlazeVOX this summer. And I'm learning from Jake Marmer an interesting idea of embedding QR codes within the book, which will then link to the recordings that we've done of particular pages and poems. So stay tuned for that. You're going to get some of the early samples of that material. So this is, again, part of that exploration. Later in our hour together, we'll be looking at a couple of shape writing poems that we've not performed together before. And so one of those, I think we sort of have an idea what we're doing, and then the other one we don't yet. So you'll get to see how it happens from the very beginning and see what's possible there. We'll also be, a lot of the text material, I'll be able to do share screen. And as Bill pointed out, we were experimenting with that. Of course, I know it's minuscule, and people will say afterwards, well, hell, I couldn't read it. And I was saying to Bill, that's what they also say when they get the books, but that's a whole different matter and for different reasons. But you have the ability to enlarge your screen if you want to take a look at and examine any part of it, or make it more readable, or leave it just where you're taking a look at the shape itself. So it gives you an opportunity to get an idea of what the poem looks like on the page, and you can tinker with it as you wish. Other thing I wanted to add in, please feel free to toss in questions or observations via chat, and periodically we'll take a look at that and try to respond some. And our intention is to leave some time at the end for open conversation, Q&A, see what you have to say and ask. Holland, you want to throw in some other stuff?
I'm ready.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Let's look at the Joseph Lease piece that we did.
Should I bring it up on the?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We'll look at the images for it first and then play it. So it's in the Word doc.
Yeah, help me find it real fast.
A little farther along. It's very there it is.
Right there.
Okay. So this is a piece that was the shape writing that I was doing, which I did for 13 years, and I've now stopped. I'm now writing in quatrains. So I have really no explanation for that. But the shape writing lasted for about 13 years, and the key is that they're done without drafts. So what you see, while I added color later, the drafts themselves were all in black ink, but there's no modification available from that. And if I had to copy it over again, it's really hard to do. So here's the initial shape writing for the piece dedicated to Joseph. And let's go to the next frame. Because no,
Is that it?
no, go back. Maybe it's prior to it.
There it is.
There it is. Okay. So in the forthcoming book, Field Recordings of Mind and Mourning, the shape writing became transcribed into as an earlier book of mine has it, poems that look just like poems. So this looks like a real poem. Or someone once said to Bob Creeley, was that a real poem or did you just make it up? And so I don't know which category this particular one falls into, but if you look at it, it looks like a real poem. And then keeping that in mind, why don't we go to the rough mix that we've got of that and play for you what happened as we recorded a version of it. And a shout out to Joseph, who's in the audience today, amazing poet, but somebody's been really crucial in his friendship to me and in all I've been writing the last couple of years.
16, 18, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So here we go. Take a listen. 6, 16, 18 for Joseph Lease. The hidden gem is the light of morning. The hay baler's row of yellow discs beside the giant cedar tree. Wild hibiscus thriving beside the illuminated farmhouse. Gem, hidden in the dreams of the sleeping woman. A place for Shekinah to hide. Gem, hidden with 3 brown dogs at rest after running the dew-covered hillside at dawn. The hidden gem is the light of morning. The hay baler's row of yellow discs beside the giant cedar tree. Wild hibiscus thriving beside the illuminated farmhouse. Gem hidden in the dreams of the sleeping woman, a place for Shekinah to hide. gem hidden with 3 brown dogs at rest after running the dew-covered hillside at dawn. Hidden in the intricate nerves, ligaments, and muscles of this illuminated hand as its writing opens up into the light. What you want to do? Want to do a piece?
Yeah, pick one.
Let's do the dog piece.
Okay,
We can show that. That's
great.
got that image as well.
That's the first one. Is that the first one?
Toward the end, a little bit later.
Nope.
Later.
Later, alligator, and
The first of the two at the end. Next. No.
Nope.
No. There.
Black dog.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you think? Sort of a bluesy vein?
Yeah.
Why don't you start playing and I'll
Okay.
think about what to do. A golden dog, a black dog, and one I can't describe. Golden dog, a black dog, and one I can't describe. Came by shortly after dawn. Golden dog, a black dog, and one I can't describe. Came by shortly after dawn. Came by the house, curious. Sniffed around, a golden dog, a black dog, and one I can't describe. Came by shortly after dawn. Came by the house, curious. Sniffed around, ran down the hillside. Golden dog, a black dog, and one I can't describe. Ran down the hillside, crossed the gravel road, and disappeared. The golden dog, black dog, and one I can't describe, ran down the hillside, crossed the gravel road, and disappeared. There are also those who understand without teachers. So that last little line is from is not mine. The really choice lines in Slowly Becoming Awake come from the 13th century Zen master Dogen, and so quotes from Dogen appear throughout this particular book. But what you see starting to happen from the poem for Joseph, for this piece of shape writing, the shape writing for some reason suggests to me that it also wants to become something else, that it invites other iterations. So sometimes with the shape writing, if I'm in a physical setting with people or in a classroom or something, we can on the spot devise polyvocal ways of performing those, having different voices taking up different portions of a page and performing it. banjo has a whole different set of suggestions to it as to what we can do. I've worked with saxophone players before to see what, then that goes in a different direction. Actually, the piece we just played was also done with a little over a year and a half ago with a full choir, which is really odd. I mean, like, I don't know, 60, 70 person choir. So it just, opportunities present themselves and we see what to do. What you want to do? You want to play?
I'll play.
Why don't you play a little bit?
Okay. I'm switching to fretless, and I'm going to play a tune that I wrote called Raise the Shades, and segue, because of the dogs, I think I'll segue into a traditional Appalachian tune called Pretty Little Dog.
Nice. Ah.
Thanks.
In terms of Holland's playing, the possibilities are damn near endless. I've also heard him play strictly electronics, where all he has is the computer on stage playing with Anthony Braxton and a full band in concert. And there he is doing that, guitar, keyboards. So the possibilities are really endless. I heard you playing one night in the, what was the little brewery that you were playing in? We were playing guitar, Bo Hicks' place.
Oh, right. Druid City.
Druid
Yes.
City. And that was the first time I really heard the range of the guitar, of the banjo playing. I thought, oh man, this would be really fun to explore.
Pick another one together.
Let's do the other one. Let's do the other big piece together. The
Which one are you thinking about?
Codger one. That's,
Okay.
Because we've got the visual image of that one, and that's
Great. All right. That would be fun.
Getting to the meat of the show.
Point to me which one it is. Oh, it's at the font.
It would just be right after. It would have been right after the one we
Right.
looked at. Keep going.
Sorry, right after
It's
the
okay.
one we looked at is way down here.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm making everybody dizzy in Zoom land.
Same thing that the damn poems do. It's just
Yeah.
let me take a look at find it as well. So one of the things also is we go to a couple of other recordings, but this one we'll see what we can do. We've never done this one before. But textually it's more complex. So Golden Dog, Black Dog, a lot of the poems are written in early morning at Duncan farm that my wife and I inherited about 5 years ago from Uncle Cooter and my father-in-law Dab. A rather unexpected situation. Beautiful place to sit and read and write. And so in this one, you can already begin to see here, and these are from the book Slowly Becoming Awake. Dos Madres Press published that book. And the publisher asked something that I had not done in a long time, or not done at all, which is he asked to see transcriptions of the poems. And I thought, that's a bad idea. I want people to read the shape writing. And I was going away to learn how to sew for part of a Zen training I was doing. And I didn't reply to him, but by the time I got back, I thought, that's a really good idea. Let's see what happens when the poems become transcribed and what's the possibility of performing them that way. But this one, as you'll hear, just textually is just a lot more complex and going in a lot more different directions. And we'll see what we make of it. So I'll just start with an opening line and then you just start playing whenever.
Yeah.
The empty form is really not. I suppose I am writing, and it is not the sun, and not a sphere neither. Cog, said the old codger. The empty form is really not. Think it over. I suppose I am writing, and it is not the sun, and not a sphere neither. I first came upon the clearing while sitting and attending to my breathing. Cog, said the old codger, it has nothing of the narrative about it. Think it over. For example, how about the words, I have attained a way simultaneously with sentient beings on the great earth. I first came upon the clearing while sitting and attending to my breathing. Cogitate. Cog, said the old codger. Think it over. It has nothing of the narrative about it. Isn't this where you left off?
I'll put the link in the chat.
What's that?
I'll put the link in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Play another recording or do something together?
Let's play the recording, the Diamond Head 2.
Okay.
Let's
That's
do
a great
that.
idea.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
a different kind of instrumental version there.
All right. Do you want to introduce it before
Yeah.
I turn it on?
So we're going to play another piece, a previously recorded piece for you. And the piece is called Diamond Head 2. The Eigner mentioned in it is Larry Eigner, who is just, man, all sorts of wonderful things are happening. Jen Bartlett's biography of Eigner is really close to being done, and that should be coming out. There are a couple of books of essays on Larry Eigner's work. He's somebody who's tremendously important to me, and I had the chance to meet him and spend some time with Larry when I first was able to read in the Bay Area, and just absolutely continue to love his poetry. There's a great selected that Charles Bernstein and I were able to publish through the Modern Contemporary Poetic series, Calligraphy Typewriters. It's a really nice selection of Eigner's work, and Stanford did a wonderful 4-volume hardbound version of his collected poems. But here's Eigner begins this poem, and part of what you'll hear, and you'll be able to see the image of the poem itself. As you can hear, when the shape writing becomes a musical composition, I'm listening to the music and responding to the music in terms of what I read. It's no longer a straight through read from first line to last line, even though the shape writing already negates that notion of first line and last line anyway. So we never know kind of where to begin. But I listen to what's happening with the music, and that determines what gets said when. So here's one other Diamond Head 2. On YouTube, Jonathan Penton is doing a beautiful job of creating a website for me, and a lot of this stuff will all be gathered there, easy access. There it is. The year that Eigner died, my father died. If it were a ray of light, a window, a wall. The year that Eigner died, my father died. A line that goes out to, oh, if it were a ray of light. Things you know are not necessarily your possessions. The year that Eigner died, my father died. Requires someone else to say it, to read it. If it were a ray of light, your possessions are not necessarily what you see or what you know. A window, a wall. If it were a ray of light, to take it up. if it isn't too crazy to find it, I think go to just show just a few frames from BrushMind,
Oh, sure.
because
We
there
can
you're
do
on
that. If you
electronics.
talk about it while I
Yeah.
look for it.
Okay. So we can do a couple other things, so that you know that and believe that Holland plays other than banjo. I'll show you. We've done a couple of videos together, and the videos have become gallery installation pieces. And we can do either one.
Is this one all right?
Yeah. Is that the one, the 30-minute?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
we'll
want to be right
start-
at about 20. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Hold it for just a second.
Yeah.
So
I'll cue it up while you chat. I'll cue it up.
okay, so what we're going to show you, one of the first pieces that we worked on together was what I call BrushMind, in homage to Kaz Tanahashi, who is a great calligrapher and Zen master. It's a title that he came up with for an earlier book of his, and we're just going to show you just a little bit of BrushMind. The first book, BrushMind 1, has 3 different versions, electronic versions for the installation. There's a BrushMind 2. There may be a BrushMind.
Second hand.
Yeah, it's called Second Hand is the second one. At Hand is the first one. And you'll just start to see a little bit. The second grade handwriting is my own, and the videographer Jane Cassidy helped us with some transformation into video. But just play a little bit of it. It's on Vimeo. Both pieces are available publicly. Great thing to show to a class. It's 10 minutes in duration. So the task for a composer is, there are 64 frames. It's going to last 9.5 minutes, 15 seconds of fade on either side. You do a 9-minute and 30-second composition. And so we'll just give you a little taste of the beginning. And it's too much fun just doing fresh stuff now. So we'll return to that.
Didn't want to share the first time around.
There
It
we
takes me 2 tries. Great to hear that. I haven't heard it in such a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was,
I love it.
that was fun. You might tell them just a little bit about where some of those sounds came from.
Yeah, yeah. The I was actually listening to it, and it's been such a long time since I heard it. I couldn't remember making some of the sounds. Right? It was, oh, was that the weird fiddle made out of a coffee can, or was that the so? But many of the sounds are field recordings that I made in Thailand. And there's the crickets and the bell come from a Buddhist monastery in Thailand. And my job when I was there was to ring the bell in the morning. And so I would set my recorder up and then go to the bell tower and ring the bell. And those sounds they've come back again and again in different pieces, and it works really well for the brush mind. So, yeah.
And I think what Holland is saying is probably this suggestion that led toward the title of that next book of field recordings of mind and morning,
Yeah.
and really thinking of the whole tradition of American folk recordings done as field recordings. And I thought, why not the meditations of mind in morning, and think of those as field recordings or transcriptions of brief durations of consciousness. What's funny, and what Holland is saying there, I'm remembering that when we were putting that together, we really talked just a little bit about the nature of what the music might be like, not directly coordinated with each frame, not obsessed with, oh, does that sound exactly right at this frame? And I didn't know what the bell sound was. And he said, what do you think that is? I said, it sounds like a call to prayer. He said, yeah, that is what that is. And then, so we're finding the authenticity and depth of the recorded material finds its way with real depth. Let's do, keeping an eye on time. I mean, we each had things we laid out to do. I thought of reading poems and all that kind of stuff, but I think let's do another piece,
Sure.
and then just go into, if people have questions or observations, whatever. Show it's in. Let me see where the darn thing might be. It's another one that we've never done, and that's really fun to do with a group as a polyvocal kind of number. But this is the one I'm thinking of.
This is what's fun about working with Hank. He says, let's do something we've never done. Okay. That one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to make it smaller.
Make it a little smaller.
Yeah, sorry. Because it's hard to read.
And again, after working together for a bit and getting to know each other in our musical and poetic tastes, I would say that for the mixes that we're doing for the book, it's pretty rare that we do a second take. But we do a second take periodically. But the first take approach certainly keeps you alert and fresh. And that's often what we've gone with. So a little intro. This piece was written in Cambridge, in the UK Cambridge. I was real sick in 2016, and wonderful Romana Huck from Notre Dame invited me to take part in a conference on grace that was going to take part in Robinson College with Rowan Williams, the former archbishop, and other theologians, and Fanny Howe, and myself as poet represent. And I was really sick, and she kept saying, well, can you go? And I said, I don't know. And she held open the time and finally said, how about if we fly you over first class and get you a limo to take you from Heathrow to Cambridge? I said, even if I'm dead, I'm going. If I'm dead or alive, I'm going. You might have to just pack me in. And I thank God I recovered and was able to go. And it was a really absolutely remarkable experience, not the least of which being spending several days with Fanny Howe. A real joy and privilege. So again, as you can just see by the shape of this particular one and the way words feed into one another, great fun if you're in a room and people take certain phrases or connect words across the circle. But we'll see so I just would think something that suggests circularity to you in your playing, whatever that might be. And I'll listen for a little bit. And the do not treasure phrases are Dogen's phrases top and bottom. And the Dogen material all comes from Kaz Tanahashi's completion of the translation of Shobogenzo, the Treasury of the True Dharma Eye, which I read over about a 2.5-year period and incorporated. So why don't you start playing, and I'll listen again and see what might work. Turn down, shot through, nothing, chock full, nothing. I am nowhere more than here. Dark matter, nothing. Chock full. Here I am. Nowhere more than here. Nothing. Turn down. Say it. Reading. Do not treasure or belittle what is far away, but be intimate with it. Do not treasure or belittle what is near, but be intimate with it. Shot through, nothing, dark matter. Say it, reading. We will turn the wheel together. So what do you see if we've got some questions or people want to throw in? Let's throw it open at this point, and we can get this off the screen so we can see more people. I think you have to, if you want to say something, what you need to do is
raise your hand, unless it's I
think you can unmute yourself.
I think that Jessica Smith had a question. It's in the chat.
Okay, let's see where that is.
So she was asking, how do you decide what notes to play, and how does it operate as a score, and does it change each time?
Those sound like they're addressed to me.
I think so. Yeah, I can say I don't know.
Right. So often Hank and I will talk about what we think we might do in advance, but only in pretty vague terms. So Hank never says like, this is in the key of D minor and it needs to be, add that A flat or something. And so it's kind of on me to decide about notes. I let the body and the instrument and the connection between the two work with the notes, particularly with the fretless banjo. I'll explore different tunings. Like the tuning that I was just in for this last piece is not one that I play in very often. And so there's a situation where I kind of know where the note is and I know where I'm headed for, but I have to listen and play and feel, and the feedback between all of that keeps me on track. So that's a little bit about like there's a complex relationship between how the strings are tuned and then where my hand's going to fall, and the kind of habits that we have, that we practice, the things that we practice, and then also tempered by the desire not to fall into those habits sometimes. So, okay, that's stuff going on in the background. But then what's really going on is we're listening to each other, right? And so sometimes I want to step in front, and sometimes it's important for me to step in the back. And sometimes there's a word that suggests a sound in a very literal way, and sometimes it's more a gestural sort of thing. That is the longest non-answer I think I've ever given. I hope that helps. Oh, and it operates as a score. That's an important part, right?
Right.
Do you want to talk about the score part?
Well, it's the shape writing is a score in the sense, and there are plenty of other people. This is certainly not original with me. If you look at Anthony Braxton's scores, they have a visual complexity like that, a suggestiveness. John Cage's work certainly is influential in that regard, and many others. So it's suggestive of a possible music. But what intrigued me, because I've been doing this now for 15 years with different musicians, is I've always been intrigued with the elasticity of the relationship between music and language. The stubborn conviction that I have that I gave up for the choral concert after about 15 years of stubbornness, I think that I'm with Zukovsky in the sense that there is music in the poetry as language, as spoken language. And so I'm almost always dissatisfied with the translation of poetry, as if the composer says, well, that's not enough, let's make it operatic. And that drives me fucking nuts. Although there are examples that are really beautiful that I found, Steve Reich has done some beautiful work in that domain. But mostly when I hear that, I think, oh, God, you missed the music that was already there as it's spoken. So that was the first stubbornness that got me on this project for maybe 15 years of thinking about all this. So as you're like Golden Dog, Black Dog, I think the balance shifts toward the music as accompaniment.
Yeah. And
But-
rhythm.
Right.
There, some of the work is more about the rhythm of the phrase, the scansion, the stresses, and that I listen and respond to. And some of it is more about a place that could be evoked by sound as much as by images and words. So, and the place then isn't as full of events. It's not that something important happens. It's that we're in a situation, we're in a landscape. So, okay.
Which is a good description for field recordings of Mind and Mourning. There's a real flatness of occurrence. There's almost a repetitiveness of mourning quality. Nothing dramatic happens very often in the course of all of that. That elastic relationship, though, one of the things that really drew me to Holland's music is this guy knows traditional Appalachian music inside and
Watch
out.
out, Deb. I'm coming through, and guess what? You're laying right in the way.
What do we got here?
Who was that?
I don't know.
Zoom bombing.
So let's go, because we could, Jessica's question has all sorts of possibilities, but someone else have a question they want to throw, raise a hand?
She had a follow-up that I think is an interesting question as well. So I'll make it my question, but she was asking too, could you speak a little bit to how does the shape and the colors that you use and some of the visuals you showed us, does that ever influence the collaboration at all? You could speak to that.
Yes.
Okay.
It really does. And so in transcribing from shape to something that looked like a poem, the colors entered into my thinking there. I just didn't want some one-to-one correspondence of blue means I'm sad, green means fertility. I couldn't stand that thought. So it's more a random relationship and an attraction to a visual appearance based on the colors.
And a place that
As she was saying, she was talking about synesthesia as well. Is that part of the process? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's part of the whole joy of seeing the words as they become part of a music, they become something else.
An area that we've started working and we had to put it on pause because we couldn't be physically together was developing a gestural interface for the shaped poem. And so I was working with a a touchpad technology, and we could put the poem on it. And then as Hank would read it, he could run his finger on the line, and it would generate the visual image of the part of the poem that was being read. And we were just beginning to explore how to include electronic sound in that. And so this is another way to explore a performance of the poems that we just started, and it feels like forever ago.
It does. When you're saying that, I think, oh yeah, we did do
We
that.
did do that.
That was starting to happen.
And that was more about color and shape and the visual aspect of it. And you know, hopefully we'll be able to get back to that work. But in the meantime, we've moved towards the sound side of things. So.
I'd like to ask something about the instrumentation. Can y'all hear me? You can.
Yeah.
So what I noticed about this, because I've heard Holland, you play other instruments on YouTube and stuff like that, or is it like your guitar playing where you're using a beer bottle and some stuff like that? But the curious thing about the banjo is it does make everything kind of sound Appalachian. It's like, you know, I mean, it's there, and it's I guess there's some of those kind of natural minor thirds or whatever, and the rhythm with the bottom string and the top string. But anyway, so I thought that the first piece, the dog piece, was that one had a very kind of bluegrass feel, a kind of wacky bluegrass feel. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in the history of the instrument, its connection to the slave trade, and to American history, right? The darkest parts of American history, and the cultural significance of all of that. But I'm also not necessarily caught up in the tradition as being a preservationist thing. So some of what we do is playing the banjo in a way that the banjo is not played. I'll lay it on my lap, or I'll use electronic effects, or play it the way you would approach a koto or a kayagum or some sort of Korean or Japanese instrument. But it's okay that it embraces that. For me, it's okay, you know, it's connected to a place and a people and a time and a country, and so I'm not going to throw that out, but I'm also not going to be too prescriptive about that.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, Bill, what you're saying, I think is right on in that. And so some of the playing by desire moves away from that traditional sound, but that traditional sound as a kind of baseline, when I hear myself back, I think, man, I have become a whole lot more Southern after living here for 44 years than my voice sounded when I grew up in San Jose, California. And so it's for me, there's a proud embrace of dwelling here and that fact in the nature of the music itself. And the music helps me to understand better the rootedness and how that in place and how that's developed for me, particularly in the place of the farm itself.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the attraction to that music.
Yeah, the farm connection is really right. The rural.
I really was hoping you guys were going to be doing this like from a barn. And
Todd had a question. He said, is there ever anything in the poems that leads you to certain instruments?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
What?
I think that place is part of it.
Right.
Sometimes you'll request certain things.
Yeah. No, The truth is, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the relationship to music to a certain degree is opportunistic. It's going to depend on who shows up, who's here. So when I worked for a couple, 2-3 years with Andrew Dewar on soprano sax, it wasn't like I thought, well, again, it's that same with the choral arrangements. Opportunities present themselves, and so I explore them. It's not like I can say, okay, well, there's an array of 50 possibilities here and pull, because only a few people are game for the game. And when you find that out, then you explore it and see what's there and what's possible to explore. I'm surprised. I started out initially, I was working with, I'm drawn a lot to guitar, acoustic and electric. And so the first few years I worked with Tom Wolfe, who's a very traditional jazz guitarist, sort of in the Jim Hall mode of really precise notes, John Patitucci, that kind of vein. And so I worked a lot with Tom Wolfe and always had this desire, can't you roughen things up a bit? Can't you? No. And then also worked with a bass player with Chris Kozak. So the three of us did a lot of exploration, but that was in a more square mode of traditional jazz. And then when Andrew Dewar showed up, started exploring what's possible with soprano sax. Hearing Holland perform, I thought, wow, there are a whole range of possibilities there that we can explore, and there's still plenty more to look at.
And when I read, like, what we often do is an improvisation, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't preparation before the improvisation. So
Right.
Hank will come to me with a collection and say, are you interested in working with this? And I'll read it, usually without making any notes, and then go back and read it again multiple times and make very specific notes about what I hear as I read it. And then we'll work on it together and improvise and play with it. And some of those things that I've notated, maybe we never get to,
Right.
but some of them will inform a direction that we go in. And so there's a conversation that happens there. Hank makes some words, and then I think about what it could be, and then we find another place where it winds up.
Yeah, so for the field recordings book, we sort of compiled a grid. Let's see what we could do with these pages. So there was the Hank grid, and then there was the Holland grid, and then we would see how the two compared. And then sometimes we'd look at the grids, and then other times we would just say, well, this page looks interesting. And so we would do something that was not on either of the grids. So we've got about 15 or 16 tracks now for the upcoming book. And that's enough of the QR code stuff. And we'll probably embed some images within the YouTube track, some photographs and images of text.
Any more questions or comments? Everybody can just jump right in. I'll unmute you, or you can unmute yourself now.
I really enjoyed
Well,
that,
good-
guys.
Oh, thanks,
Thank
Jessica.
you.
Thanks for being here.
And I'm going to have to ask you questions later because I think I'm going to write about gesture in my dissertation. And I'm going to have to pick your brains.
Sure. Always glad to have conversation with you, Jessica. That'd be great.
Well, this has been pretty frigging fabulous. Really want to thank you guys
Oh, thank
for hanging out with us tonight. And to all the rest of you, please join us for all the events coming down the pike. We never rest at the New Orleans Poetry Festival. And let me just tell you real quick, I'm sorry, didn't have this queued up. Our next event is tomorrow, April 8th at 5 p.m. Central, Visualizing Prose Poetry, Landscape, Dream Machines, and Transformation. Hannah V. Warren, Paul Cunningham, and Zach Anderson. Come check it out. All you have to do to check out like anything that's going on with the festival is go to nolapoetry.com and click on something. That's all there is to it.
We actually have
So,
two
okay,
events tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I only
So
mentioned the one.
after that event, Thursday nights by the Old Bayou, that'll be New Orleans poets reading at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time.